of April, your grace period lapses. So you then have to apply for a temporary license, but at the time, prior to applying for a temporary license, you are illegal. But my license expired the 2021 and in April, and as well as in March. But I present myself prior the 15th and or the 15th of April. I now invoke the provisions of the National Traffic Act of the 3 months grace from the date that I have come into the DLTC. So for instance, I've come on the 15th. So I invoke the 90 days, which will then be May, June, July. So at that time, I have renewed. That's how the law will be interpreted, and that's how we're going to deal with the people in that issue.
I understand that, but the point is that after July, the person who's applied like that, the 3 month grace period is finished. So at that point, the validity of the expired license, even though they have applied for a new one, has expired, but they might not yet have received their new card because the backlog in the printing of new licenses will only be, according to what was previously said by the Minister, be cleared by September. So you've got about a 3 month period beyond that, where there will be some people who won't have received their new license.
Well, what the Minister clearly directed us to deal with is the issue of ensuring that there's additional capacity. We have not touched on the issue of the additional capacity with the current situation that we have. That process is running in tandem with the extension. So I do believe that the Minister in due course will be making an announcement in relation to the additional capacity of printing the driver's licenses.
So are you expecting then that the backlog in the card will, the backlog in the printing of cards will actually be cleared within the 3 month period rather than September as previously stated?
But the September that the Minister spoke about, it should be understood in context, is the fact that while we are doing with the backlog, every month there's 60,000, 62,000 people that are renewing their driver's license. So it's pushing the barrier further. So that's what the Minister was taking into account. So that by September, when we renew in September, we should be spending 6 weeks to give you a card. That's where the issue was talking to.
Just to add on the CEO in terms of the question raised by MoneyWeb, the printing of driving cards is on a first come basis. We are continually working with provinces to ensure that we increase our capacity to respond to the influx of application. And you will further appreciate that the current draft regulations will allow our directions to continue for a further period of 30 days post the date of the end of the state of disaster. And the closing date for comments for the draft regulations is today, and we expect the new regulations to be gazetted any time from tomorrow. So I think this situation is not static, but we also need to be realistic. And I think if you have a responsibility to drive, and you have a car, and you have to have a driver's license, it is important that you must take advantage of this period to come forward and renew your driver's license. We know that there are all sorts of, like I said in the statement, different challenges in terms of what motorists say they are facing. And we have improvised. We are extending hours. We have had the shareholders meeting of all the provinces. They have agreed to this to ensure that we don't have a situation where DLTC is closed, and we have increased the working hours so that our people can have access to this. But at the same time, we have made provision so that they are not going to be seen to be in contravention of the law, to ensure that motorists are given space on the road to be able to renew their driver's license. And our tools of trade equally are being updated and made to be efficient on the part of the RTMC in terms of the online services that we are providing. We have had challenges with regard to that, technical challenges, but also we have had policy challenges. You would have seen when I went to Acacia, engaging with drivers' schools and so on. It is a problem in the law because in terms of the amendment of the National Land Transport Act, driver schools are not regulated. And President have sent that back to Parliament, and we expect it to come back from the NCOP to the President to sign off. We also have a problem in law in terms of the e-hailing, among others, in terms of that, the amendment of that act, because I hear Uber people, I see them striking, Bolt, and all of them, but this is not regulated. So through that, we are regulating and to ensure that we are able to address the challenges that we are facing. Because the issues that were raised is the fact that the way it was coined for the President to sign, it will actually be challenged that it is unconstitutional. So these are some of the things that we are addressing. Some of them I'm not talking about today because they are not related. I'm speaking really about the anxiety in the public around the question of the expiry, the grace period. But there's a whole lot of things that we're dealing with in terms of the driver's license. The driver's license new card, which is now before and been discussed by Cabinet, and Cabinet have mandated us to look at instead of having all these things running in silos, having Home Affairs, identity card, SASA, can't we have one card? That will take over 5 years. But we're looking at that whilst we need to process the new card for South Africa, which will kill the entire challenge we've got with regard to the old card. We are one of the last countries that are still using the machine we are using currently. And I've reported back to you about it, including the challenges that the machine faces, which we fixed, and we reported back to public about it. Our vision is to go forward and get a new driver's license card. We will not have any nightmares about driver's card, because this is old. It was introduced in this country in 1998 by Minister Mek Maharaj. We are 10 years behind. We should have long had a new card and so on. Whilst the country moves with the rest of the world for a single usage of one card for everything, we must resolve the issue of the new card. And Cabinet has given us a mandate within 2 weeks to come back, and so that they can either give us a green light and look at the time frames, how realistic this new card versus what we are doing. Is it possible and feasible that we can do? So those are the things that we're doing. Online, it has had its teething problems. The legislation in terms of its amendment when it comes to the driving schools in the country, which need to be regulated. We need to address that. They raise very genuine questions, they themselves, in terms of the introduction of the online. You must understand that whilst we are addressing one problem, we are creating the other. I was in Acacia and one person said to me, Minister, you want us to go back to 350 because this is our butter and bread. So you shouldn't kill our business and all of that. But I said also, whilst I'm not killing your business, I must make the driver's license environment in the country efficient and accessible. And where we are heading to with all of these things, our objective is to ensure that to get and to acquire and to have a driver's license in the country is not a difficult thing for the motorist. And that is why I'm also looking at the issue of the 5 years. And indeed, the 10-year period in terms of renewal was looked at, and then at some point it was actually stopped. So I'm looking into that, and that is why I've commissioned the RTMC. I'm repeating this for the second time. I've commissioned the RTMC, which report will come back so that when I take a decision on the renewal time frame, 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 2 years, I'm backed up by empirical evidence that support the direction I must actually take. I've met with a whole lot of many other people, including the shareholders as well as OUTA on this particular matter. I'm supposed to have a second meeting with them on this matter. They've made very persuasive, and they've done also their own research that the 10-year thing is doable. I don't have difficulties with regard to that. But as a minister, I also need to look into it. And then because they raise a very important issue with me, they said, with all this confusion, and you need to give yourself time to correct all these things. And I think they were very constructive in our engagement, and they gave me their input, which my team and I are looking at it, and I'm going to give them a feedback on it. Whilst we differ on other things, but this matter of the driver's license is not a Mbalula issue. It's a matter of a South African country called South Africa. It's a matter of national interest. Among nations in the world, we need to have a perfect driver's license regime in the country. So we are not doing an ad hoc stopgap measure intervention. We are doing durable, something that generations to come can be proud of. We're not doing something like Bambezela and Yajik, you know, it's just for a time being. So when all these measures are implemented in terms of law, following the law, but also in terms of the tools of trade we are implementing, South Africa to get a driver's license should be something that any one of us and our children and grandchildren should say that we don't have a problem to acquire a driver's license in South Africa. And also once you have applied, renewed, it's easy the turnaround to get your driver's license. Now you've got to wait, not because of anything, because the tools of trade that we are using are still old, and yet we are a country that we are. So we are moving with the rest of the world to renew, refurbish, and ensure that these things we can be counted among the best in the world as South Africa when it comes to driver's license. I want to conclude by thanking the motorists and thanking everybody for their patience as we navigate through this particular process. And I'm confident that with my team, we will get to a better solution for the country. And this is giving us sleepless nights, and we're working very hard to ensure that everybody, it's not like I know at some point I said this is a cut-off date, but we monitor the situation closely and we see. We're going to run even very effective media campaign on the online and so on. I've urged RTMC to do that, media campaign to educate people about this in terms of the online services, how they can acquire. It's a technical thing that everybody must actually understand. And working around the clock and introducing these measures, I'm confident that we should be able to deal a blow on the backlog in terms of the measures that we've implemented with the MECs, the resolutions that we are implementing starting from this weekend. We should do a blow to the backlog and let everybody take advantage of this period so that we are able to reverse this as we implement the bouquet of interventions in the driver's license regime in the country. And thank the media for the platform as we convey the changes on driver's license and the direction we are taking. This is a very important issue. It's a service delivery matter. It affects people directly. It affects everybody. And I think it's important that it must be understood as such. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Hope it clarified those questions. And the central message here is that the citizens are encouraged to renew their driving license card in the next 15 days to ensure that they comply with the law. On that note, thank you very much. We will end the session at 10 o'clock. Good day.
Thank you. It is an April Fool. This is real. I know what is confusing most of you about my birthday is that it's registered there on Google 8th of April. I was born on the 1st, that is why I'm April. And then my other name is Paseka, there are many. Because it was Easter weekend, the 1st of April. Now, when I went to take my ID, they then registered 8th of April, but I'm the 1st of April child. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
So don't ask me how old am I, 51. 51, not out.
It's a golf course, Minister.
Yeah, it's a golf course.
You are in 51.
Yeah,
Hole number 51.
Hole number 51.